And then you can decorate. When I was going to the cabin or what?
They're there now.
We gotta go wake up the littlest one.
Wanna get out?
We are now headed to Gamma and Papa's house for an early, Christmas get-together hangout thing. Gonna be playing in the backyard with the kiddos. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jesus. Happy birthday to you. Okay, blow it out. All right, Justice. Let's go. So Justice got a baseball glove and a baseball from Gamma and Papa for Christmas, so we're gonna toss the ball for a little bit. Okay, so as you saw, it is day 244, and we are starting the book of Daniel today, and we're looking at the first 3 chapters of Daniel. Daniel chapter 1 documents the exiles that are brought to Babylon, and Daniel, along with 3 of his friends, they resolve in their heart that they are not going to defile themselves and follow the king's plan in terms of their diet, because the things that the king wanted them to eat was against their religion, was against what God had commanded them. God blesses them as a result of it, and they actually are more healthy than the guys who followed the king's plan. And as a result, David and his 4 friends, they slowly started kind of inching their way up in terms of the leadership in the Babylonian Empire. Chapter 2 is the story of Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the statue, and he wants the magicians and the wise men to not only tell him the interpretation of the dream, but also to tell him of what dream he had without him telling them. And only Daniel was able to do this, and he did it as a result of God giving this to him. And it's very clear that Daniel and his friends credit God for revealing this to Daniel. And the dream is about the statue that has the golden head, and it has the silver arms and chest, the bronze belly and thighs, the iron lower half of the legs, and then the feet mixed with the clay and iron, and then this rock that is kind of carved out that no man made, that comes and crushes this statue. And it's really shows us that the gold represented the Babylonian Empire, the silver represented the Medo-Persian Empire that would come after the Babylonians, then the bronze represented the Greek Empire through Alexander the Great, and then the iron is the Roman Empire. But we see that the rock that comes destroys all of these massive empires, and it shows us that God is the one who will have the ultimate authority. He'll have the ultimate power in the end. And then we have the infamous story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, where Nebuchadnezzar constructs this 90-foot tall golden statue that he requires everyone to bow down to. And these three guys, they do not. And as a result, they're thrown into the fiery furnace, but God delivers them. And in fact, God is with them in the furnace, as Nebuchadnezzar himself sees that, wow, there's a fourth one. We threw three in there, but there's a fourth one. And he looks like the Son of Man. What in the world is going on? And it was a testimony that God delivered Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And as a result, Nebuchadnezzar was like, hey, we got to worship their God. Each one of these stories you could talk about for hours and hours. There's so many details and intricacies with each one of these chapters, and I wish we could spend more time on them. But one of the things that I saw consistent through these three chapters was that God had favor upon Daniel and his friends. And God's favor is not something that we manipulate God to give to us. Now, we absolutely want to position ourselves in a way to receive God's blessing, to receive God's favor. If we're walking in disobedience, it won't come. When we walk in obedience, that God's favor and his blessing will come. But that being said, God's favor is for God to give alone to whomever he wishes. And we see that happening with David. Have I been saying David? Sorry. Daniel and his friends. God has been giving this to Daniel and his friends. And we see while Daniel and his friends were very much exemplifying characteristics and a lifestyle of obedience to God, that God's favor is going to come upon whomever he wishes. But we know that the purpose of God's favor coming upon someone is a result of him being glorified. I really apologize about how often I said David instead of Daniel. It's probably going to happen over the next few days as we're in the book of Daniel. It is now time to clean up the mess. We're home. We had a good time. Good night.